our worship, intentional in discipleship, evangelism, and excuse me, we're going to add a few to that in talking about being intentional in our marriages as well. But as you're turning to Matthew chapter 28, I just want to remind you of a couple of things. One is that we are intentional in our relationships. You heard Chad say that they made me meet the pastor. They basically, let's just say what you were saying. They overwhelmed us with greeting and hospitality. Is that what? And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but that's a great thing to have. And so we want to be intentional in those things. And one of the ways that we are intentional in that is about our relationships. And so on February the 2nd, which is a Saturday, we've started a thing about that's called Connect Groups. And it's just an intentional way for us to have fellowship, and not only to have fellowship with those that are in the church, but maybe to invite your neighbors or your friends. A lot of people, if they ever have any idea about going to a church, they may not necessarily go to the actual church building itself first, but that they would come to your home and visit your home first. Over the years, Joni and I, we've had connect groups. We've called them different things at different places, and we've basically opened our home for 20 years to people and invited people into the church, into our home. And there are people that are serving Jesus Christ today because they came to our home first, and then they came to church. And so we have these connect groups. If you're not a part of a connect group, there are several that are opened up around Van Buren, and you can find out those homes that are open at the Welcome Center and get connected into a connect group. Then on Wednesday nights, and I'll mention a little bit more about this here in just a minute, but on Wednesday nights, the past 2 Wednesday nights, we've been talking about being intentional and passing things on to the generation that's coming behind us. And so what we're going to do on the next 2 Wednesday nights, this Wednesday night and the next, and please don't use this as an excuse to stay at home on Wednesday night, but this Wednesday night, this coming Wednesday night and the next, and then we'll go back to our regularly scheduled services on Wednesday night. There's a service in here. There's discipleship classes for you to be a part of. But the next 2 Wednesday night, we're going to be intentional in some practical ways. And so help me, Pastor Cody, on Wednesday nights, for the next 2 Wednesday nights, we've set up stations across the church, or will be set up, where we're being intentional in trying to mentor people and help folks along the way. And these are just very, very practical ways. So in one room, actually in the kitchen, we will have how to make a pie crust. How many of you know we have some award-winning ladies that make pie crust in this church? And I hope Joni does not go to that class, because I'm already filling out all the clothes I have now. But in a way, I do hope she sneaks down there. But listen, please don't take this in a wrong kind of spirit. But if we don't pass that art on to somebody else, we're going to have a generation that doesn't know how to do stuff. Do you watch the news? Does anybody watch the news? You should watch the news every now and then. It will make you at times want to jump out of your basement window, but you ought to watch the news. But on the news the other night, I saw this, and you can go back, I suppose, on Fox and find it in their archives, but they are now going to change the names of cuts of meat. They will no longer be called brisket or T-bone or porterhouse or any of those things, because there are a generation that is coming that does not know how to cook it. It was on the news. I'm not making this up. And so they're going to change the cuts of meat now to say, or they will be called grilled, fried, broiled, whatever it is that you do to it, that's going to be the name of it. Because there's a generation that's coming that does not know. Y'all are all looking at me like I've lost my mind. Go watch the news. It's for real. It's there. We've raised a generation that does not know what a porterhouse is. We've raised a generation that doesn't know what a brisket is. And so now they're going to name it based on how you cook it. Can you give me a broiled? A broiled what? Possum? Squirrel? Folks need to know. There's some ladies in this church, a bunch of ladies in this church, maybe some men, but I see a majority of ladies on the first ladies that make bread that will make a tadpole slap a whale. Come on, it's okay for you to laugh, even to smile. Look at your neighbor, say smile. Your face isn't going to crack if you smile in church. And every first ladies that they have, they always call, well, let me back up. Every first ladies dinner they have, there's always a group of men that show up, and when those biscuits, those rolls come out of the oven, they have melted butter. And listen, they don't just take a brush and there is no brush. There's just a bowl of melted butter, and those men are sitting there dipping that stuff in like a sponge. The Bible said not to cause one of these little ones to sin. Sorry. So we're going to teach you on Wednesday nights for the next 2 Wednesday nights how to make a pie crust. That sounds completely if there's a word, non-spiritual any whatsoever. And guess what? It probably is. But if we don't learn to mentor and teach people that are coming behind us, we're going to lose. Somebody came in my office the other day and asked me, Pastor, what's 225, 75, 15? How many of you know what that is right off the bat? 225, 75, 15. Raise your hand if you know what that is. It's a tire size. This person came in my office, said, I don't know what a 225, 75, the mechanic said I need a set of 225, 75, 15s. I have no idea what that is. Give me a broiled. Broiled what? So we're going to teach some folks, we're going to have a car. Actually, we're going to have Lawrence Daniels' mini car in the gym. A man should not own a car that can go through a doorway. All the men said, we will video that car going through a doorway. So we're going to teach folks how to check oil, how to change a flat, what a 225, 75, 15 is. We're going to teach some folks how to do that, and we're going to rotate all of them through a bunch of these classes. There will be classes on safety for the ladies, on how to take care of yourself, for instance, at Walmart, the parking lot, and different things, how to protect your home. And there's going to be several classes that you can rotate throughout, but all of those will have the same on the 2 Wednesday nights for you to rotate through those. And so please don't use it as an opportunity to stay at home. Use it as an opportunity for you maybe to come and learn yourself, but also to be a part and help somebody else learn. We're going to teach, and this will sound completely unspiritual any whatsoever, but we're going to teach, we're going to have one of those classes on those nights will be how to tie a tie. And my neighbor in Houston was a grown guy, he was my age, a year younger I think, in fact, for me to come knock on my door one morning, pretty early on a weekday morning, and he said, Britt, he said, he's standing there with a tie in his hand. He said, I'm headed to an interview, a great interview, and I have to wear a tie, and I don't know how to tie a tie. Could you tie this tie for me? And I said, you bet. And so that may seem unspiritual to you any whatsoever, but we're going to teach those things on Wednesday nights, and it'll be fun to be a part of it anyway. We'll meet here for the first few minutes, probably the first 15 minutes. Everyone will come into here, and then we'll show you, we'll give you a list of where those things are on Wednesday nights, and we're going to be intentional. So I got to hurry, but I let you go early this morning. For the sake of trying to repeat myself, however, statistics say that a person has to hear something 7 times before they ever even consider it. Think about that. A person has to hear something 7 times before they ever even consider what's been said. How many services have we preached and we've just completely forgot? Please don't say this morning. We forgot sermons. We know the generality of how the service went and how things went, and we can remember a specific event, but we forgot what was preached. We see the same commercials over and over and over and over. I heard a guy in a restaurant the other day that was talking about commercials and the commercial Liberty that's about insurance, and they say, if you've seen that, at the end they sing that little tune, Liberty, Liberty, Liberty. I can't sing. It's not my gift. I'm in my lane, so I'm not going to try to sing. I heard that guy in the restaurant, he's singing that. Why is he singing that? Because he's heard it enough that it's stuck. And so now he's singing it. You have to hear something 7 times before you ever even consider it. So I have taught this and said this on Wednesday nights for the past few weeks, and I'm going to say it again tonight, but then move on to one question that I want to talk to you about tonight. But we're being intentional, you see, behind me and in the hallways. And so what does intentional mean? Intentional means done on purpose. If I am an intentional person, I am a person of purpose. I do things deliberately. If I am intentional, that means calculated. It means planned. It means studied or purposeful. I've said this on Wednesday nights that Jesus did not just walk about the countryside aimlessly without intent. He had purpose to everything he did. It was for a reason to heal somebody, to see someone saved, to cast a demon out. Everywhere he went was calculated. It was purposeful. He was not just aimless in everything he did. If we're going to grow a church, if you're going to grow a family, if you're going to be intentful in your walk, we cannot just shoot in the dark and randomly make try. We must be purposeful in what we are doing. Our purpose is to see the lost come to know Jesus as their personal Lord and Savior. Our purpose is to see you get out of debt. Our purpose is to see you get delivered. Come on, that is, and so then we must plan everything around our intent. If you're intentional on going to heaven, can anybody raise their hand and say, I am? Okay, some of you aren't. But if you're intentional on going to heaven, then you plan your life around getting there. You are intentful. You are deliberate to do what you have to do to get to heaven. You cannot be aimless about it. You cannot just be hopeful that you make it there. Everything goes okay. You must be deliberate. That is what intentional means. And so I've said this for the past several Wednesday nights, and I want to say it to you tonight, and maybe you're hearing it for the first time, so that means I have 6 more times to tell you that I want you to know tonight that you are the most valuable tool God has. Listen, please, I'm not minimizing or diminishing the cross or the blood or any of that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in spreading the word of Jesus Christ and spreading the good news of Jesus Christ. You are the most valuable tool in God's hand, and you ought to give the Lord a hand clap of praise for that, because I'm not talking about someone across the aisle. I'm talking about you. Look at your neighbor and say, he's talking about you. And so you have to then live your life with intent. And so I preached this a few weeks ago, but I want to go back and just make a couple of comments here about something that I said in a sermon when I preached probably about this time last year, is when I preached about being a contagious Christian. And I preached about contagious Christianity. And so tonight, let me go ahead and just run forward and then come back. What I want to talk to you tonight about is intentional discipleship. So don't turn me off because I start talking about discipleship, but I want to ask you a question, and this is for every person watching, or for every person that if you can hear the sound of my voice, and I'll be back to this in a minute in Matthew 28. What is God's greatest commission for you? I'm not talking about your spouse. I'm not talking about for this church. I want to know tonight, and I'm going to help you answer, I hope, what is God's greatest commission for you? Let me back up just for a second. I preached about being a contagious Christian several months ago. And I said that we must make sure that our actions match our words. If you are intentful, if you call yourself a Christian and mean that in every sense of what that means, listen, not every person that sits on a church pew is a Christian. Not every person that's been around for 50 or 60 years is a Christian. There are some folks that sit on church pews all their life throughout the Bible and completely missed it in the end. So we never know the heart of a person, but here's what I do know is that if you are a believer, you must make your actions line up with your words. Joe Aldrich, I read to you out of this sermon, and I'm going to touch over this real fast, but it'll bring us where we need to be tonight to answer the question on what's God's greatest commission for you. Joe Aldrich wrote a book entitled Lifestyle Evangelism, and he said that Christians are to be good news before they share the good news. People, he said, will follow individuals who are real, sincere, and who own up to their own mistakes. He said people who are considering a change in their lives do not expect perfection, but they do expect sincerity, humility, and they do expect some authenticity along the way. And so here are some statistics that I want to share with you from this sermon that I preached to you about this time last year. In his book, The Bridger Generation, Tom Rainer points to some very alarming statistics regarding the decline of the evangelical church among the generations in America. Listen, what I'm about to read to you is not talking about Africa, is not talking about Mexico, is not talking about anywhere else. What I'm about to read to you is you and I. What I'm about to read to you is what is in our face today and what we are facing today. And so his statistics were, listen to this, in America, for those that were born between 1927 and 1945, those are called the builder generation. Are you with me? From those born from 1927 to 1945, they are called the builder generation. During their generation, 65% of Americans were Christian. In the generations born from 27 to 45, the boomer generation was born from 1946 to 1964. And they represented at that time 35% of born-again believers in America. The buster generation is the next generation. They were born from 1965 to 1976, and they represent 16% of America. The Bridger generation are those born from 1977 to 1994, and they represent 4% of believers in America. Let me read this to you again. Builders born from 1927 to 1945 represent 65% of believers in America. Those born from 1946 to 1964 represent 35%, half in one generation. 1965 to 1976 represent 16%. And from 1977 to 1994 represent 4%. Today, it is not even able to register what the percentage is of believers. Listen to what I'm going to say to you. We have people that have a problem with music, with dress, with how we're doing it, the way we're doing it. But let me tell you, something happened from 65% to 4%. Today we are preaching and teaching to a group, I just read it to you, that does not know how church should be done. Does not know how you should dress in church. does not know what you should sing in church. And all we want to do is argue, fuss, and fight over all of those things. But we did not bring anyone with us. We're Paul's without Timothy's. We just want them to catch it, and you do it because that's the way we've always done it. But something says we never taught them. I know I made some folks red-faced mad. But we're trying to preach and teach to a group of today less than 4%. I rode horses forever, long time, had horses, raised with horses. I've been to rodeo, I've been around the rodeo. I've had cowboys, old cowboys for years. Never show you how to rope. Never show you what you're supposed to do. Arrogant, mean, mad. Never take the time to teach you. You just ought to learn it. Well, I guess because I get on a horse, I'm a roper. We didn't teach anybody. We didn't train anybody. But yet, they are unqualified because they're not like us. Now, this is rough for a minute, but truth hurts at times. Numbers, well, Pastor, I don't care about statistics. Okay, well, you cannot care, but numbers tell a story. Numbers always tell a story. Numbers always tell us what's going on. From 65% to 4%, something happened. So today we have to be intentional. If we're going to have a church, if the church is going to remain, if the church of Jesus Christ is going to grow and be what God intended for it to be in these last days, something has to be recognized and something has to change. Now, let's go back here just a second because I still see some mad folks. In that 65%, that doesn't mean we're going to start turning the lights down and blowing smoke up here just so we can attract folks. I don't believe God's in the smoke, and I don't believe God's in turning lights down, but I also believe that God's not necessarily in wearing a tie all the time. That's religion. We're in a relationship. I said, that's religion. I believe you ought to dress nice, look nice. I told you I'd never embarrass you. And I don't think to this point I have. If I have, you come tell me later. Something happened from 65% to 4%. So what's God's greatest commission for you tonight? What's God's greatest commission for this church? Well, let me show you. Matthew chapter 28, verse 16 through 20. Jesus has called a meeting in Matthew chapter 28. And I'm not going to get to all of it, but I want to point something out in verse 16 through 20. The Bible said, then the 11 disciples, notice he said 11, not 12. Why? Because Judas is not with them. Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee to the mountain which Jesus had appointed them for them. When they saw him, they worshiped him. But look what the Bible said, but some doubted. Or some had questions. When you doubt, you have a question. Some were in question, or some doubted, the Bible said, verse 18. And Jesus came and spoke to them, and notice what Jesus said. Remember, he's called the meeting. Everybody's there except Judas. We know why he's not there. Jesus comes, calls them together, and here's what he says. All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Verse 19, if you believe in underlining in your Bible, underline the first word of the next sentence, go. Everybody say go. Go. Can I tell you right now that go in English is the same word as go in Spanish, Russian, Vietnamese, or anything else. It is a universal word, go. What are you saying? What I'm saying here, we can't lose the definition of this word here and not understand what that word means, because it's the same in every language. It means to go. It's an action word. It means to do something. Jesus said here, go, therefore, and make disciples of all the nations. What did he say then? Number one, go make disciples. Are y'all with me? He's not talking here to the pastor. He's talking to everybody sitting there. Go, therefore, make disciples of all nations. Then what did he say? Baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And what did he say next? Teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Let's have a little Bible study here just for a second before we make our one point and go home. Go, therefore, and make disciples. One, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Number two, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. Three, and lo, I am with you even to the end of the age. I submit to you that age is still going on, because Jesus has not come back to receive you and I as the church. So that age of teaching, come on, making disciples and baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, that age is still going on. So that command of go is still in reference to you and I today, because you with me? We have not come to the end of the age. So therefore, this is not just some kind of old history lesson. This is not just some kind of old book of fables. It's still in action. He said, go and do this till the end of the age, or go and do this till I come back. What's the greatest command for you is to go. Boy, that's good preaching. When somebody's dying or leaving us, his or her last words are very important. This is Matthew 28. This is the last chapter of the book. Jesus is going away. These are his last words. He's about to die. He's about to go away. And you may think tonight that this is insignificant, or you may think tonight that this is old-fashioned preaching. But I'm telling you, when it all boils down to it, this is what is going to remain. Who at the end of the age are you standing here with? Who did you bring with you? You may think it does not point to you, but it points to every single person. This is your responsibility. Well, Pastor, I'm not outgoing. Nobody said you had to be going. He just said go. Well, I can't sing. Nobody said anything about singing. Can everybody in here talk? Come on. I heard somebody say the other day, her mouth runs like a sewing machine. That means she can talk. Everybody in this room can talk. Then you are a preacher. Preacher means to tell. You are a minister. Listen, I'm telling you, I just feel it. I'm so passionate about it, because this is the answer. This is the answer to your debt. This is the answer to your happiness. This is the answer. This is the answer. Let me go a little further. So somebody's last words, they're very important. These are the last words of Jesus. What does he have to say? It's not, hey, you're going to win the lottery. It's not, hey, you're going to always be happy, and I'm going to deliver cotton candy and roses to your doorstep every single day. And I'm just going to pet on you, and I'm going to love you. And it's all going to be fine, fancy. Just come up here and get in my lap. He said nothing about that. He said, go make disciples. Jesus left the disciples with these last words of instruction, and they were under his authority. They were instructed to do several things here, but I'm only going to have time tonight for just to talk maybe about one. We'll hit the others later. But one tonight, their instruction was to go make more disciples. Go make more disciples. Now, some folks, you've already just turned me off. Some of you are already at Brahms or wherever you're headed. Because to go and make a disciple, I'm talking to young and old tonight. To go and make a disciple, now that's not popular and that's not fun and that's corny. Well, first of all, you have to understand what a disciple is. And Jesus said, go make more disciples. If you're going to be a disciple, you have to first know what it is. So here's the definition of a disciple. A disciple is a man or woman who is constantly in operation or operating under the rule of Jesus Christ. If you are a disciple, then you are a person that is operating under the rule of Jesus Christ. If I'm going to make a disciple, I have to be an example and I have to teach you how to operate under the rule of Jesus Christ. That is a disciple. I am a disciple at 7 in the morning. I'm a disciple at noon. I'm a disciple on Saturday. I'm a disciple when I'm on vacation. I am always, because I am under the rule of Jesus Christ. I'm not just under it when I'm at church. I'm not just under it when I'm with my friends. I'm under it when I'm by myself in the back seat of a car. If I'm a disciple, I'm under the rule of Jesus Christ. I'm under the rule of His Word. That is a disciple. Millions of people worship Jesus as Lord, but who's a disciple? Many millions today, and maybe even right now, are worshiping Jesus, but who's a disciple? Who's under the rule of Jesus Christ? Before you answer that question, we have to know that we are not just to make converts, we are not just to make Christians, but we are to make disciples. He did not say, I just read it to you, He didn't say, go make Christians. I can't make a Christian. I can't make, if I could and you could, I'd take this Bible and through osmosis, I would hit you in the forehead as hard as I possibly could, hoping it would all sink in and make you come to church, make you come to prayer meeting, make you be a tither, make you be obedient, make you be faithful. But I can't do that. Only God can do that in a willing vessel, in a yielded vessel. I can't make you a Christian. But if you are a Christian first, I can make you into a disciple. Well, not going well so far. So who's a disciple? The term disciple is another word for follower of Christ, one who's learning to be like his master. As a disciple, you follow Jesus Christ, who's the master, by living like Him. Say it again. As a disciple living under the rule of Jesus Christ, you follow Him, who is the master. By living like Him, you become more like Him. By living like Him, you become more like Him. Write that down. By living like Him, you become more like Him. Because I'm serving the Master, I become more like. I am not the Master. I am not the Master, but I am like the Master. Come on. Because I am serving Him. I am a copy of Jesus Christ. I am made in the image of Jesus Christ because I am serving Him. I am living for Him. You with me? So if you're going to order a DVD of this service or a CD of this service, Christy Swafford will be glad to help you. And what will happen is right now in that control room up there, they are videoing this and they are taping this, and there will be a master what Christy will do is she will take the master of this service and she will take the master and she will slip it into a computer. That computer has 16 decks on it and it will make 16 copies of the master. Now those are copies of the master. They are not the real thing, but if you listen to it, it'll be just like the master. You are not Jesus Christ within yourself, honey. You may think you are. You may think you're God's gift, but what you are is you are a copy of the master. Our problem is we think we're the master. Our problem is we've tried to out-God God. You'll never become the master because you live in this. That's good. Many people believe they have become disciples of Jesus when they get their sins forgiven. Many people believe that they are automatically a disciple of Jesus when they've gotten their sins forgiven. Colossians chapter 2, verse 13, the Bible said, "And you being dead in your trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh, he has made alive together with him, having forgiven you of your trespasses." You are in a process. I am a process of sanctification. I am in a process. Sanctification is a process. What does that mean? It's a big fancy word to say, he's not done with me. Come on, he's not done with me. What's happening is that I am in a process. When I came to know Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior, he wiped the slate clean. And now, as I continue marching towards him, I am in the process. He's knocking a little off here. He's knocking a little off there. And I daily am becoming more like the master. I will never be the master, but every single day that passes, I sound like the master. So just because you're saved doesn't mean you're a disciple. Once we have received atonement, which means the blood sacrifice of Jesus, once we've received atonement for our sin and are reconciled with God through Jesus' death, we are at the starting point of becoming an example. Luke chapter 6, verse 40. Jesus, his own words, he said, "A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone who is perfectly trained will be like his teacher." Notice again what he said. A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone who is perfectly trained will be like his teacher. A disciple of Jesus Christ enters a lifelong learning process to live the same life as Jesus lived. Now, don't get messed up here, because what I'm talking about being a disciple is you're never going to walk on water. You're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be perfect. Perfection is not what he's looking for. I'm talking to you about being a disciple. Can I tell you that we are having people come into the church today, in ours and in others, that do not know anything about Jesus Christ? Have you ever thought, do you ever sit and think about stuff like that? In America today, with our technology and everything we have, there are still people that don't know about Jesus. When I was pastoring Calvary, the church I came to from here, a lady came in on Sunday morning. I preached like I do here. I preached that morning. I gave an altar call just like I do here. She came down to the altar, African-American lady, and I'm talking about she got saved all over everywhere. It wasn't a crocodile tears, and she wasn't just trying to pray off some guilt. That woman heard, and she came. I'm telling you, we prayed for her and prayed for her. It was absolutely glorious. She came up to me after the service. She introduced herself. She said, "Pastor, I want you to know," she called her name. She gave us her name. Joni was standing there. She gave us her name. She said, "I'm 55 years old, and today is the first time I've ever heard about Jesus Christ." She said, did she not? She said, "I am 55 years old. My mother was an atheist. My dad was an atheist. And even though they lived that way, she said, we only live 4 blocks from your church right here. And she said, I have never heard the name Jesus Christ till today. We're in a generation today, folks don't know what you and I have known. They don't know about getting so blessed you shake all the bobby pins out of your hair and shake your weave out and you just snot cry. Anybody snot cry? Mascara, you ladies call it mascara cry. You guys, I don't know what y'all call it. I want us to be human with you for a second. We're dealing with people today that have real life problems and difficulties going on in their life. And they're not looking for betwixt and bear with and therefore and thou art and all that. They want to know that you love them. They want to know that you care. They want to know that what you're preaching and teaching, that you really believe it. That you're not just acting like it. That you're not just putting on a face. That you really, really believe that Jesus is able to save. That he's still alive. That he will forgive you if you've been a prostitute, that he will still love you if you've been raped, that he will still take you in if you are addicted. That's what they want to hear. They don't need you to shove the Bible down their throat. We've been so guilty for years. Just get to church. If you just get in the building. And oh yeah, they need an opportunity and we need them here. This is where the atmosphere of boy, what an atmosphere in this service tonight. And man, what an atmosphere this morning. Yes, we need to get them inside the building. But what's going to get them inside the building is that the building is inside of you. When you're not inside the building, when you're in your building at home, when you are somewhere else, that this place is on the inside of you. And that if you claim it, you act like it. That's what they want to know. That's what they don't care about your revival of 25 years ago. They were not there. I'm not being disrespectful. I love it. But if you're living on yesterday's, discipleship is constantly, consistently operating under the rule of God. A disciple will reflect Jesus' thoughts and actions. The problem is today, listen, the problem today isn't that we don't have enough Christians, as that we don't have enough disciples. Either that didn't go good or you didn't hear me. Sure, we don't have enough Christians. The problem is not necessarily we don't have enough Christians, is that we don't have enough disciples. We don't have enough people that will actually go out tomorrow and live it and tell it. It's not politically correct anymore. Tell me where he said. Well, I'm ashamed, or I don't know. You don't have to be a Bible scholar to tell somebody what God did for you. All you got to do is open your mouth, and I'll guarantee you he'll fill the rest of it. Because if he got you, what he's wanting to do is to get somebody else, and he's wanting to use you to be able to do that. We have people that go to church, but we don't have people that will make consistent decisions based upon his word. We must be intentional in connect groups, in our Wednesday night services, in our outreach. We must be intentional in the Spirit of God. We must be intentional at building relationships. I read this scripture to you this morning, Genesis chapter 41, verse 38. The Bible said, and Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find such a one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of God dwells? Even Pharaoh, the enemy, recognized the Spirit of God. Listen, what we need today is, can your neighbor recognize the Spirit of God on the inside of you? Can your family recognize the Spirit of God? Or is the only Spirit of God you get when you walk inside this building? Honey, let me tell you, we need it in the job place. We need it in the marketplace. We need it on the football field. We need it on the volleyball court. We need it. If the only Jesus they know is the Jesus you show, is that enough Jesus to get them to heaven? If the only Jesus they know is the Jesus you show, is that enough to get them to heaven? We have closet drinkers. People aren't stupid. They know. We have closet pornographers. We have, can I go on? Oh no, Pastor, not in this church. This is Van Buren First Assembly. We don't have none of that here. That don't happen in my family. Even Pharaoh said of Joseph, is there not anybody that have the Spirit of God like this man does? We're missing men and women that will make disciples. We know too much. I don't need to be a disciple. I'm twice as old as you are. I built this church. And you're going to tell me what to do? I'm not talking about me. You're sitting there thinking I'm talking about me and you. I'm talking about the overall. We're missing people today that will say, I want to learn. I want to know. I want to follow. But listen, can I say this here? The world has surely capitalized on it. Hollywood's capitalized on it. Everybody wants to be just like them. Let me tell you, honey, you don't want to be just like them. Everybody wants to be the next sports star. Where are the people in the church that want to be the next great evangelist? That don't pay good. You're right. Because the people that's being spoken to don't pay good. Woo, we run all the way to Fort Smith for a steak. Ante up $45 for a broiled. You don't really even know what you just ate. Evangelist comes, feeds us. We don't have people that are willing to make disciples. Well, we want to be NFL stars and we want to be in the movies, but disciple, cheesy. That don't get you sex. Whew. Go get the car, Joni. Pull it up to the door right over there so I can get in it and leave. We've touched a button. Ooh, that don't get me a hit with the ladies. That don't get me in with the guys, you know, because if I'm up here singing in the choir, they must see me that I'm in the choir. Problem is today we have preachers, staffs, deacon boards, church members fasting and praying. God, send them, send them, send them, send them. We don't have enough people that will make disciples to bring them. Go in any language is go. It means to declare your allegiance. When you say go, you're declaring. Jesus said, go. Declare your allegiance. If you're going to be with me, then you're declaring your allegiance when you go. Go to a world that doesn't accept me. He didn't say, listen, I know we're getting down here and I'm coming to the end somewhere in just a second. He didn't say, go to the group of people that are already in church.
There you go. Think about that.
He didn't say, go to the easiest group. He didn't stop in the middle of that. He didn't say, go, and then stop and say, okay, let's qualify who we go to here.
Think about that.
Let's just go, you just go. You're okay. You just go. He said, go. Can I tell you, and I don't have to, that we live in a world today that, boy, this isn't popular any whatsoever. Look around. We have a secular band come to town, they'll fill the joint. We tell them God's erasing debt in the church somewhere. We don't have disciples. People that will go. Listen to this. Information without application has no transformation. Information with no application has no transformation. This is all the information you're ever gonna need. It's all the information for your marriage. It's all the information on how to raise kids. It's all the information on how to be happy. It's all the information on how to be healed. It's all the information to live a joyful, happy life and to stay out of prison and to stay out of addiction. But let me tell you, if you can have all the information in the world and if you don't have any application, then you have no transformation. We have people that want out of debt, but they don't want to tithe. You have no application. You got information, but you have no application. Therefore, you stay where you're at. We have people that live in depression. We have people that want to be a better marriage. You get all the information, but you have no transformation. Because you didn't have no activation. You didn't activate. I'm not playing off of words here, just words good. You have no activation because you didn't apply the information. Preach me up out of my chair, preacher. Spin me on my head. We walk right out of here, and tomorrow, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'll be back Sunday for another dose. And you better give it to me or I'm voting no when they bring you up. I can give you all the information, but if you have no application, there will be no transformation. That is discipleship. That's discipleship in 3 words. Somebody that will give them the information so that they can activate that in their life. It's your choice. But there's not going to be a transformation in the church. There's not going to be a change in your life unless you apply what you've been told. Amen. Verse 20, Jesus said, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. In other words, what Jesus is saying here is, tell them everything I've already told you. I already told you. We don't have to sit around, listen, First Assembly, we don't have to sit around and invent another way to do church. We're doing great church. We don't need to sit around and invent another Bible. We don't need to sit around. We don't need to erase the staff and hire a whole new staff. We have the absolute best staff that there is. What we must do is take what we have been given and we must apply it, and we will see a transformation in the church, in our city, in your family, in your life. Jesus said, tell them what I've already told you. You You don't need for them to come up with another bestseller and wait on that, or another dumb reality TV program. You want a reality TV show? Come film us all week long. I'll give you one. You wouldn't believe. You wouldn't believe. We only work 3 hours a week. Hour on Sunday morning, hour on Sunday night. Well, let me take that, not here. Some of you didn't get that. Hour and a half on Sunday morning, hour and a half on Sunday night, hour and a half on Wednesday. That's all we do around here. We play golf the rest of the time. That's all we do. All we do around here. We take your tithe money, man, we go to the mall. That's all we do around here. Work about 4.5 hours, 5 hours a week. You want a reality show? You come up here, I'll show you a reality show. I'll show you how to scare the ever-loving daylights out of Pastor Gary, which I can't do anymore. I'm not trying to make a mockery of the church. I'm saying, Jesus said, you tell them what I already told you. You teach them. Tell them what I already told you. We need people who will make decisions based on the rule book. These guys are trying to get me to come play Monopoly with them, but I'm not going because I just learned they don't play by the rule book. Well, we need people to play by the rule book. We need our world, our world is full of folks that are closet believers. We're coming out of the closet about everything else. Let me ask you, you don't have to answer me, but you think about it, and I've got just a few more things to say, I'm done. Is it too late? Are we too late? Am I preaching something that's 25 years too late? Am I preaching something that's out of date, that's over with, that's a fad, it's done, it's gone? Or are we telling you something that's relevant for today and that's lasting and is the answer to every single issue that someone could have? And if you're clapping and the answer to that then must be yes, you approve, then are you a disciple? These guys were to go and reach and teach worldwide the good news of Jesus Christ, and you and I are to go as well. Whether it's next door to our neighbor or to another country, we must be intentional in our discipleship. We must be intentional in our training. We must be intentional in what we do. It's not an option, it's a command to all who call Jesus Lord. We're not all evangelists in the formal sense of the word, but we all have a testimony. We have a story of how God got us to where we're at. And that is your great commission, is to tell somebody how God got you where you are. They can take away your home. They can take away your car. They can take away your money. But they can't take away what Jesus Christ did for you. They can take away things in your life, but they can't take away what Jesus did for you. That is your great commission, is to be a disciple, to go tell. But listen, let me just tell you, and I promise I'm done here. It starts in the house. Because if I'm not doing it for my own family and I'm not doing it where I'm already planted, then that out there is just for show. The most important thing, Pastor Gary, when you get to heaven, when you and Tammy get there, will not be that you were the music pastors of this church. That's a great thing. And I'm sure, there's no doubt in my mind, that the both of you will have a crown that is so large, you're going to have back problems. Everywhere we go, somebody knows these two. We can go to district meetings, which are preacher meetings. They don't ask me how I am. It doesn't bother me. I'm going to the meeting anyway. They'll say, tell me how Gary Grisham is. How's Pastor Gary and Miss Tammy doing? How are they doing? We go to a restaurant. Somebody just walks up. Are you Gary Grisham? When those two get to heaven, their crown's going to be so large, they're just going to have to bend over and walk to carry that crown. And if you don't like Gary Grisham, I don't like you. If you got a problem with the Grishams, you just get your hat and your purse and let me help you on down the road. But that's not the greatest thing. The greatest thing won't be that he ran search and rescue and that he hugged every person that came in that door. It didn't matter if they had on a $3,000 Armani suit or if they just crawled out of the trash can. He hugged every person that came through that door. But that won't be the greatest thing. The greatest thing won't be that he ran or drove a bus for 600 kids on Saturday. That won't be the greatest thing. The greatest thing will be, did you bring your family with you? And who else did you bring with you? I'll be judged first for me. Then I'll be judged for my family. Then I'm going to be judged for you, for what I told you or what I did not tell you. The most important thing is, if you can't make disciples in your own home, the chances of making disciples outside of your home are increasingly difficult. I have to lead my family before I can lead anybody else. Pastor, are you good at it? No, sir. I've not cornered the market on being a husband, and I'm not cornered the market on being a daddy. I still lose it every once in a while. Come on. I still make decisions at times without thinking all the way through them. I don't make everybody in that house happy, but I don't make all you happy either. But every day, I'm doing the best I can with what the Lord gave me. And I'm going to lead that family. Everybody from the Brooks house goes to heaven. Joshua said, as for me and my house, y'all do whatever y'all want to do. Joshua said, you do whatever you want to do. You can either serve Jesus Christ or you can go serve all the gods that all your forefathers served. You do whatever you want to do with the information you've been given. But as for me and this house, we're going to serve Jesus Christ. We can do whatever we want to, but as for Van Buren First Assembly, we're going to be intentional to make disciples that will go out and make disciples. What we're happening right now is we're seeing the folks that we're discipling are now got disciples. You never make the full circle until your disciple becomes a disciple making disciple. That's when you know you've done something. When the person you trained now is bringing people. So here's the prayers. You're standing up. It's real simple. I'm not going to beg you. You don't have to come, whatever you want to do. But if you say, Lord, I want you to make me a disciple, your answer is by your coming forward tonight, and you're getting to this altar. When you get here, you'll say, Lord, help me to be intentional. Place somebody in my pathway. Tomorrow, Lord, or even tonight at the restaurant or at the grocery store or at the gas station. Lord, place somebody in my pathway. Lord, I'm going to tell somebody around me. Listen, when you get here, please don't come for show, and please don't come because your neighbor's coming. This is serious business. When you get here and you're saying, Lord, I'm going to take what you've told me and I'm going to tell somebody else. I'm going to take what you've done in my life and I'm going to deliberately go tell somebody else. But Lord, first of all, I'm going to be a disciple myself. And I'm going to avail myself. I'm going to make myself available to you. Here's the second thing, and then I'll shut up right here, is Lord, help me to be the leader of my family and my household. Help me to be a disciple in my household. Would you lift your hands as these folks lead us? And would you just make that your prayer tonight? Come on, you got to open your mouth. You got to open your mouth tonight and say, Lord, make me a disciple. Help me to be intentional. Put somebody in my pathway. Help me, Lord, to tell somebody about